Welcome to the Transfer Exchange Show. This is the Italian and England special. The Euro 2020 final special. Yes, you heard it right. England are in the final. In a final. The first time for 55 years. 55 years of hurt. And now I'm as anxious as ever. You won't even blink. Sweaty palms. Right now, I've realised I'm not going to enjoy the game. I'm not going to enjoy the experience until that final whistle is over and we find out whether England are crowned European champions. We will be joined by Nima Tavallaey Roodsari of SempreInter. But right now, we have our England representative. None other than Steve. Chief Scout. Kay, how you doing, Steve?
Like you, very, very nervous. Happy to be doing this. Hopefully, doing this will get something, some of the emotions out of me. But this is well, it is with England. Normally when the group games are going on, I can't help it. I don't really feel anything. When the start of the tournament happens, I get that little bit, into it. Now I am shaking like a leaf.
I was all right. Do you know what? I was all right. I was saying beforehand, I felt all right. I felt good. The semi-finals, I didn't really feel it until the game kicked off, but it was more excitement. This is a completely different emotion. And I don't even think it would matter who we're playing in the final. I know Italy are an excellent team, 33 games unbeaten, all that shebang. But I think I would be feeling like this if we were playing Kazakhstan. My nerves are shocked. I am in bits right now. So, as you said, hopefully speaking about this is like therapy for me. Hopefully speaking about it will alleviate some of them anxieties and nerve and keep me relaxed.
When this podcast is finished and when we've finished speaking to Nima, there's one word I do not want to hear in my head anymore, which I've heard all day long, and that is Iceland.
Oh, what?
All day long.
Why would you bring that up? Who said this? Long. Who's bringing up Iceland?
Because it's in there. I can't get it out.
You're talking about shopping, ain't you? You're talking about shopping. Frozen goods. That's what it is.
We can say that.
We can.
We can say
because we've forgotten about that. Because not only, is this not the same team? It's not the same mentality. It's not the same coach. It's completely different, Steve.
Yeah.
It's completely different. Gareth Southgate has brought a completely different vibe to the team. He's instilled confidence in the players. He's instilled a little bit more confidence in the fans. I don't know what he's done. It's not even the waistcoat this time because he's donning the jacket. But that guy, they called him an FA yes man, but surely now they have to pay him the respect he deserves.
Yeah. Absolutely. None of us were too sure when he first got the job. We all thought he was going to last 5 minutes, but as you said, like you just said there, everyone thought he was a yes man, but he certainly isn't that. He don't think nothing about who to change and give his way of doing things. If you don't like it, you're out. So as you said, totally different manager, totally different team. Not Iceland. Definitely not Iceland.
And as you said, we was all a bit dubious at first when Gareth Southgate got the job. Look, for me, I don't know who else was out there for the job. There's probably other people at the time, I can't remember. But every step of the way, he's been questioned for his teams that he's picked. Gets questioned because I remember the first team he picked for going to the World Cup. And it was like, I even said to people, this team it is not inspiring at all. But that quickly changed once they got onto the pitch. And they said it was an easy route. He got an easy route out there, but he still got to the semi-finals. We can speak about easy routes, but you have to respect your opponents and you have to beat what's in front of you. And he's done that. He's taken a team to a semi-final and now a final. So as I said, you got to pay the man some due and respect.
They've been together. It's a togetherness. I mean, a lot of them players have been together since the under-17s, and they've come all the way through, and now they're in a final of a big European competition. So I think that togetherness has played a big part.
Yeah. So, Steve, seeing as sometimes we've been a bit dubious about Gareth Southgate's team selection, I'm going to let you pick your England team selection. 1 to 11, who are you picking?
Well, there's going to be changes. This guy, I mean, in goal, there's only one person. It's going to be Jordan Pickford. He's had a fantastic tournament so far. Made a couple of mistakes in the semi-final, but I'm not going to hold that against him. He's had too good a tournaments for people to bring that up.
Yeah.
Then at right back will be Kyle Walker, someone who I wasn't sure, still had it in him, but totally wrong. I didn't know if he still had the legs. I was totally wrong.
His recovery's been excellent, isn't it?
Oh, incredible. Then the centre backs is John Stones and Maguire. John Stone's someone who's not got talked about that much in this England squad, but has been absolutely outstanding every game.
Yeah,
not put a foot wrong. Luke Shaw left back, and then excellent. And then Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice in the middle there. I mean, they've grown together through this competition, and you need them there so that everyone else
is free to do their role. Yeah,
free to do their job, and those two they allow the rest of them to do that. So definitely those two. This is where I'm going to make a change in front of Rice and Phillips. I would play Jack Grealish. I'd put him in the front now. we said in the Spain game that the way to beat Italy would be to go and play round and play through them, and just pass them off the pitch. Jack Grealish can do all that. Mason Mount, he didn't do much wrong, but for me, he's not going to be able to do. I mean, we haven't got a Pedri, but Mount certainly ain't a Pedri, and Grealish, I would say, is the closest we've got to him. So I would play Grealish in there, and then up front, down the middle is going to be Harry Kane. On the left, Raheem Sterling. Simply, you just can't drop him at this moment in time. He's on form. There's a few things in his games I don't like, but again, fair dues to him. He should be picked for the final. And out there on the right, I thought about this all day, and I'm still thinking about it now, actually.
What's your thinking behind it, Steve?
I thought Saka in the last. He didn't do nothing, majorly wrong, but to me, he looked a bit nervous.
Yeah, which we may have seen in the semi-final against Villarreal as Arsenal fans.
Yeah, he took time to get into the game. I know he got taken off. I don't think he had a bad game and he was taken off for that, but he wasn't doing the job. There's no point having Saka on the pitch if he's not doing what Saka does. And I just worry that it's just too big a game. He's 19 years old. He did look nervous in the semi-final, so I'm going to pull him out. I would pull him out, even though he's an Arsenal player.
And he got the assist.
Yeah, he did. But there's still something. I mean, those Italian defenders, could have him. I would rather have someone who's a little bit more experienced, played in bigger games and played in more games, if you like. So I'm going to play. I'd pick Jadon Sancho up there instead of Xhaka. He's just got that more experience. He's played more games. He just gives me that that bit more. I can see him going at the Italian defences and and causing them problems. Where I think Xhaka might. He just looked nervous in the last game, Kieran.
Yeah. I understand that. I totally understand that with Saka. He did look nervous, and we see Saka on a weekly basis, and one of his strengths is his fearlessness. For the first time, I think ever really for Arsenal, I saw in the game against Villarreal that fear and the nerves kicked in a little bit, and I saw an element of that for England. However, I did think that he grew into the game, and obviously with the assist, he done his job there. But I can see why potentially you would want to start Jadon Sancho. The Italian defenders are smart. Look, Chiellini is look how he was. Look, that gamesmanship and that getting into Jordi Alba's head before the penalty shootout. That's all. Yeah. That was all part of it. That wasn't him just trying to be best mates. That was all part of it. That was go over to your team. You ain't got nothing bad to say about me because we're just being friends. Even though you gave him a little punch on the jaw, which in game, Jordi Alba would have been on the floor screaming out for a red card. So I completely understand that. You got your reasons. Jack Grealish, I just don't see it. I think you're right. I think Jack Grealish should start. As we saw with Spain, you can pull these defenders out. You can pull them out of position. Yes, they're experienced. Yes, they're world class. These are world class, experienced defenders. They've seen it. They've done it. But they can be got at like any player. And Harry Kane is the kind of player who will drift in. He will drop off. And he'll leave him thinking. But will Mason Mount get beyond that defender when he does that? I don't think he will because it's not natural in his game. Whereas I think that Jack Grealish, if Harry Kane was to drop off and potentially pull a defender out of position, Jack Grealish will know to get in the positions. He'll know to get beyond, watch the line, potentially get a goal scoring opportunity. I just don't see Mason Mount doing that. And that is the worry for me if Mason Mount plays. Mason Mount's a good, honest player, and I think that's why Gareth Southgate picks him. And I think that's the same with Saka. I think he sees an honest player who will work and track back first and then do the rest. Whereas I think he sees Jadon Sancho as a player who is an attacking threat. He's a forward. He's a forward first. Whereas Saka's got a more of an all-round game. So that's how I see. I don't see any changes really from that Denmark game.
Oh no, I don't see him making them changes.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a manager. I'm not, but I just feel that. Look, he must watch that Spain game. He must watch that Spain game, and if he's watched that Spain game. He must know how to play against Italy. He must know that he's got to pass, keep possession. And with Harry Kane up front, they didn't have an Harry Kane. We've got an Harry Kane, and that's the way you can beat them. But I think if you're matching them on a strength to strength basis, player for player basis, I worry.
We speak about the likes of Saka. Maybe a game like this maybe a little bit too big for him. And we spoke earlier about Jordan Pickford being excellent so far, but in the last game, potentially even the game before that, there was a little bit of nerves with him. Do you think that Everton not playing in big games, Everton not playing in big European competitions is starting to kind of show in the likes of this semi-final for players like Jordan Pickford.
I think that's a fantastic point. I think it's a fantastic point because we've just named two players there in Saka and Pickford who are the ones that have looked a little bit nervous than others, who haven't really played in top games in Europe, where most of the others, okay, we can say Declan Rice and Kelvin Phillips.
But the thing is,
different animals.
But also, look, I would still say the same for them because if you're looking, you said they grew into the tournament. Earlier games, Calvin Phillips was really good in the first game, but in the other games afterwards, and even Declan Rice as well, they've kind of grown into the tournament. It seems like each game they've grown better, and that's through confidence as well in believing in your own ability against some of the top players in the world. So I wouldn't say they haven't been through the same sort of emotions as Saka and Pickford have. It's just maybe the games for Pickford earlier maybe have been a bit quieter. He just hasn't thought about it. And Saka came in a bit later during the tournament. So I personally feel like they've been through that, but they've just grown into it more.
They've grown into it. Yeah, they've gone the other way. They've started the other way round.
Yeah.
Where Saka and Pickford have got more nervous as the bigger games have come along. So you're not going to change Pickford. He's always going to be in goal. Yeah, because I don't think he's got any competition, quite honestly, from the others. But Saka, I believe. I mean, even Rashford, maybe that's something to think about. I think what Gareth Southgate's got to do, he's got to sit down tonight. He's got to have a think. Or I'm sure he's already been thinking, and he's got to think to himself: can Saka handle that massive occasion? And there's your question. Do you think he can?
It's one of them. You don't know. You won't know until he's been through it. And I'm sure playing in the semi-final and, as we said, grew into the game. I'm sure playing in that game against Villarreal in the semi-final, these are all experiences that he has to go through to learn from, grow better, and not have any fear. Look, by the time Saka's 25, if he carries on development, we're talking about a world-class player because he would have played in all these games. By 19, he's playing in the final or semi-final at least of a European Championship. He's played in the semi-final of a major cup competition for his club. The 2 seasons before that, he was he wasn't. He didn't play in the final, but he was amongst it. He was involved in the build-up to it. So these are all experiences that make these players that we speak about as world-class. They all had this when they were younger. They all went through this. I'm not saying he's going to be a Cristiano Ronaldo and a Messi, but they all started at a young age, and they all had to go into these competitions at a young age. And I'm sure if we looked at Cristiano Ronaldo when he was 19 and he was playing for Man United, I'm sure he may have looked nervous in certain games, and he may have grown into a better player over time. So, like I said, who knows? It's a tough decision for Gareth Southgate. I don't think it will be Rashford, and I think it will be out of a Sancho and a Saka. And I just feel that with the way that Gareth Southgate is, some say overly cautious. I just feel that I think it'll be more of a case with Southgate of build from the strong foundation, get through the game, build up in confidence, get chance on goal, don't concede. If you don't concede, you won't lose. And that's what I feel is his thinking.
See, that's what I worry about with England on Sunday, is that I don't think England can get in a battle with Italy. If they get into a battle, if Italy want to play as in a battle, if they don't see if England are not pinging it about, passing it about, and they need to get the Italians chasing the ball. They need to get people running. There's players in there who, are in their early 30s, middle 30s. So Spain knew that, and they pinged it, and pinged it, and pinged it, and they were the better side. And Italy, you could see when it got to the last 30 minutes of the game, into extra
they just
time,
wanted to play for penalties.
That was it.
Yeah,
exactly. They were shot.
Yeah,
because
they were.
They literally passed them off the pit. They were like writing down who was taking the penalty
at
the beginning.
They were, and that surprised me because Spain were kept on going for it, kept on going, and kept on trying to push.
Because it was the only way. So it was the only way. So I feel that if they do that, if you're going to battle them from the first minute to the 90th minute, as I said a while ago, I just worry. I think we've got to have players on the pitch to ping it around. If Xhaka plays like he plays against Arsenal, that he has done all season, then you pick him all day long. But do you take that risk after seeing him being a bit nervous in the semi? You play Mount, which basically means you're saying we're going to have a little battle up Italy by playing Mount. And then I don't think we can win the game with and it's just one player. But I think you've got to pass it, keep possession like Spain did, and then I think we've got an excellent chance because we've got Harry Kane up front, and to stick him away. But we need to supply him, like we've always said recently. We need to supply him. I can't remember once when Mount supplied Kane in the last game. Not off the top of my head. When Grealish come on, you could see the difference. Amount of time that he was on there anyway.
Yeah,
he weren't on there long, was he?
Speaking on that, there's a lot of talk about people second guessing how Jack Grealish is feeling, how he would be feeling about coming off. What was your take on him coming off in that game? Would you have taken him off? Would you have swapped? Would you have taken Foden off? How would you have played it?
I wouldn't have took him off. I still can't get my head around it now. I've listened to Gareth Southgate's explanation, and he's England manager, and he knows best. But even after his explanation, I didn't get it. Jack Grealish is one of the best players. When the ball's given to him, holding on to the ball, turning with the ball, running forward, keeping possession. In the England side, maybe in Europe. He's obviously, as people keep going on and on and on about, which is getting on my nerves a little bit now, seeing how many times he gets fouled. But the fact is, he does get fouled, so that's going to slow the game down.
Literally, within about 20 seconds of him being on the pitch against Denmark, he won a free kick.
If you want someone to defend from the front, which we all know is where it starts from, you couldn't have a better player on the pitch than Jack Grealish. Because I was screaming, I was thinking, well, if Denmark scores, what are you going to do now? Because if they would have scored, I don't think we would have gone on to win the game. I think that it would have been a bit different. I don't know, but anyway, it never happened. But no, I can't get my head around it. But it seems that Jack's taken it with a pinch of salt. He's not let it bother him. He's come out. And he said that he understands that I think who they brought on another defensive player, didn't they? So they wanted to go even more defensive. But as I said, that to me, you defend from the front. And I would have thought Grealish would have been. I thought that would have been one of the reasons why Grealish was put on the bench and coming on the last 30 minutes, not only to add to his goal scoring and his assist making. Is to, like, for the last 30 minutes, 20 minutes, to hold the ball up, and when you're a goal in front or you're winning the game. So it didn't make sense, mate. You did it? I don't know.
I kind of understood his thinking. I was surprised because you don't often see a player brought on then taken back off unless they've had a bad game. And Jack Grealish certainly didn't have a bad game. As you said, he changed the game, which is what he's there for. I just don't really buy into the fact that he would have been overly upset about it because for me, look, you're talking about the England team getting into a cup final, and on top of that, like you dream like when you're being that camp. You wouldn't really be everyone wants to play, but you wouldn't really be thinking about individuals. There'd be players that are that haven't played a minute in this team that won't be they'd be bothered, but they won't be that bothered in the end. They want that medal. They want to be a part of that squad that was lifted the European Championships. And as long as that's what happens at the end of it, that's all that matters. And every player should be thinking on that way. We're one game away from winning the European Championship. And maybe that substitute got them there. So bringing me on changed the game. You took me back off to like. I think sometimes we've got to think more tactically, like in other sports where they do these sorts of things. And I think where the mentality of some of these players will probably be like that. So I don't think he'd been into upset. I think people are getting like wrapped up. Not you, but I was listening to Talk Sport the other day. Some geezer was saying Gareth Southgate clueless, and as soon as he took off Jack Grealish, he didn't care what happened. It's like, are you here to watch Jack Grealish, or are you here to see England win the European Championships? I just think some people are getting lost in the situation. So look, the initial split second when you saw your name, your number come up, it'd have been like, are you having a laugh? But once you sit down and once that final whistle goes, that will be alleviated, and it's over. It doesn't matter. I mean, you saw him after the game chatting up a couple of girls. So. Jack Grealish is the boy. You gotta love him. So he didn't really care.
I love him.
He was over it. He's a maverick, isn't he? Everyone loves him. Everyone loves that sort of player. Yeah. And it seems like football, especially in England, has lost that kind of player, has lost that kind of character. But so I think that's why we love Jack Grealish. So I don't think we can get too wrapped up in that. And I think it's just part of it.
He took it with a pinch of salt, didn't he?
He took it well.
Whatever.
Yeah, he said, "I don't care. We're in the final, boss." Like, and that's the kind of reaction. That is the kind of reaction you want, and that is the kind of reaction that will get him on in the next game. That will like, because if he's huffing and puffing and blowing the house down, it's like, come on, this ain't about you. This is about the team. But with that sort of reaction and that bit of little cheekiness as well, it's like you can't help but like the geezer.
No, he's quality. He's quality. You can't, as you say, you got to love him. You got to love him. I mean, he was sitting there with Saka, weren't he, at the end, laying on that thing. You know, both messing around, playing around.
Yeah.
You know. And as an Arsenal fan, I'm sitting there and saying, "What are you thinking?" You're saying, "You coming to come? You're still playing next season." I was thinking, "Nah, come on, Steve, come on.
Yeah,
you're going a bit too far there." But no, he's great. You know, I always wondered about Jack Grealish's attitude, and his manager Dean Smith always said he's got a great attitude. He hates for people sort of perceive him in a different way and in a different light. And I see it now. I can see exactly where he was coming from.
You are right. And as if by magic, we're going to bring in Mr. Italy. I'm going to call him Mr. Italy. It's Nima.
Mr. Hi guys, thanks for having me. Sorry about the delay.
No. It's cool. We can get straight into this, Nima.
Tactics already.
It was. I'm making a substitute.
They're coming out the tunnel late. You know, playing mind games.
A bit like Jack Grealish, game changer, or I should say Chiesa, who has been a game changer since he's come in. Nima, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? You must be thrilled.
Thrilled. I'm as anxious as I've ever been in my life, and I've got 2 kids. So my anxiety levels are through the roof. I'm not enjoying this. I won't enjoy it until it's over, and I won't enjoy it unless we pick up the cup. So I'm not feeling that great right now.
We just done 30 minutes, Nima, and it probably sounded like total drivel.
No,
people out there that were watching. It was just total nervous. We were just nervous wrecks talking rubbish.
But how are your nerves, Nima?
I'm good. I'm not as nervous yet. I usually get, the closer we get to that. I mean, the day of the games usually are the most annoying ones for me. The few hours before kickoff, before you get the starting lineup, and those are the most annoying hours, because they just take forever. Those last few hours before kickoff are the ones that really get to me. But no, I don't know. So far I've not been nervous at all, because I don't know. I just feel that I don't expect Italy to win. Like, I just don't. That's the thing. I just don't expect them to do that.
I see what game you're playing, and
no,
I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
No
right?
games.
So what were your expectations coming into the tournament then?
My expectations were for Italy to get to the semi-final. I thought that's something you could ask of them to do. I think they have the quality, and that's what you can demand of them. Anything more than that is a bonus, because I think this team is still not there yet mentally. I think psychologically, I think in terms of international experience, disregarding Bonucci and Chiellini, it's a rather inexperienced side. Obviously Ciro Immobile as well, but I mean, at this top level, Italy haven't been here for 8 years, and have gone through the worst period in Italian modern history in terms of quality. It's been so bad, it's been so dark, both for the national team, and also this last decade has been an absolute horror show. It's been banter era for all of Italian football for about 7 years.
So just Iceland, that's all we need to say there. So we've been there. We may have qualified for tournaments, but we weren't far off it. Trust me.
No, but I mean, the Iceland thing, I think, was just one of those crazy. I remember that game, and I still don't understand how Iceland won that, or how England lost it, I should say, because that's the way I see it. Iceland were great, but but for me, it's this is the new Italy. This is Roberto Mancini's Azzurri revolution, and that he's been building on for 3 years. And I still think that there's still a little bit lacking, missing in terms of maturity. I think is the word I want to go with. Mature. They're not quite there in maturity wise. And I think we saw that against Belgium, and also against.
Do you
Spain.
think?
Yeah,
I thought against Belgium, Italy were ferocious. I thought I was shocked, because I didn't expect Italy to go toe to toe with Belgium, because Belgium's forward line, but it didn't just match them for pace. They outpaced them at times. They outclassed them. I thought Italy were brilliant. Against Spain, I could maybe say the nerves, but not against Belgium.
No, for me, it was more about maturity. I thought the first 20-30 minutes, the first half against, before Barella scored that goal against Belgium, that first goal, I thought in the beginning Italy were looked a little bit out of it, and didn't know how to handle the physical presence of Belgium, but then quickly managed to resolve that situation. I think we saw a little bit of that, and then against Austria, I think more even then, they looked a little bit dumbfounded when teams defend deep against them. And this notion, this is something that Roberto Mancini's had struggled with throughout his career. He doesn't have an ability to change games mid-game. He doesn't have a plan B. He's never had it. It's his plan. He just goes with it until it works. Okay. And that's something that he's had at Inter. He's had that to some extent at Manchester City and other places as well. But I still think there's a little bit of sometimes they show a little bit of immaturity, I think, tactically. But against Spain, that's not immaturity. That was Luis Enrique running circles around Mancini, and Mancini being completely unable to respond. And there's no doubt. And I think it was an important lesson for Italy, because everything has gone so well. And even when they've struggled, they've managed to resolve the situation. But against Spain, especially the first 33 minutes, that the high intensity passing and the high intensity pressing of Spain, Italy had no response to that whatsoever. And Mancini looked completely dumbfounded on the sidelines. He had no idea what to do. You saw, they started preparing, bringing Berardi on to play as a false nine. That would have helped a little bit. But instead, when what happened was that Spain got tired. They were unable to maintain that high intensity and high pressure, and that allowed Italy to kind of work themselves into the game. But then Mancini made the substitutions that almost cost Italy the game again against Belgium. I mean, that substitution of bringing Immobile off for Berardi and playing with Lorenzo Insigne as a false nine should have been done sooner. But he did it immediately after the goal, when Ciro Immobile was actually looking really well. I mean, he's the reason that Chiesa even got the ball and the space and time to score that opening goal. If you look at it, he's keeping 3 of Spain's defenders occupied because he's so good at, hacking at everything and biting at everything. Then when you score a goal and your opponent has to chase the game and is exposing you for space, conceding space to you, Ciro Immobile is your guy. He's the guy you want to have. And then you have, he taking off Emerson Palmieri for Toloi just sends the wrong signals, because this Italy is not built, is not constructed, and doesn't know, and lacks those tools to defend like Italy used to back in the day, deep, shut it down, and then hurt on they can't do that. This midfield is a possession-based midfield. This team is built to play like that. They can defend as a unit, yes, but that revert, in the 65, 70th minute, pretty much parking the bus. They don't know how to do that, and you saw that in Italy. They completely lost their shape. It looked disjointed, and it took a while. I mean, when Spain scored that equalizer, to me, Italy were dead men walking, and it was just a matter of time. What happened was that when he brought in Federico Bernardeschi, he was able to stabilize the Italy centrally, and then Belotti and with Locatelli, Italy regained their shape. So, as Mourinho always says, I'd rather be a lucky coach and win than a good coach and lose. That's absolutely been true of Roberto Mancini. He's been a lucky coach, especially in the quarterfinal and semifinal. But I mean, these things even out. But I'm thinking, and then on the other hand, I see Gareth Southgate, who hasn't always gotten it right, but has the ability to change mid-game. And has the ability to adapt, and has the ability, and he's got a group of players that follow him and understand that. Against Germany, the 3-4-2-1 worked brilliantly, even though I think Jogi Löw completely gifted England that game midway through it by not pressing higher up. He chickened out, because when Germany are good, they swarm teams. They play like Bayern Munich. They overload you with a high pressure. But he got scared, Löw, against England, and said, okay, if we press too high, we're going to concede, and they're going to score on the counter attack. And that just give the initiative back to England. But after that, I think Southgate has handled every single selection, every single tactical challenge he's been faced with perfectly and brilliantly. And I wouldn't be surprised if the game plan against Italy is the one that they use against Germany.
So, but one thing England won't be able to do, in my opinion, is play like Spain.
No.
They won't have the pace. No. They won't have the pace of passing. They've not got the tactical genius in the middle. They've not got a Pedri, and I don't think they're going to play a Jack Grealish, as we spoke about before you came on. Who have you been most impressed with for England?
It's difficult not to say Raheem Sterling. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. Harry Kane struggled in the opening games in the group stages, but then after that, he gave a captain's performance against Germany and onwards. I think, those two are England's most impressive players. But England have so many talented players. And also Harry Maguire, I think, he really comes to his, but Southgate knows how to position England so that all his players are faced in a position to express themselves into their best advantage. That to me is what makes a good coach, and that's what Southgate does. He sets the team up so that Harry Maguire is able to show off his best traits, his strengths.
I agree,
and that's why England have been so solid defensively, and they are solid. I mean, Maguire in the air he's unbeatable. I mean, he's absolutely unstoppable. I think England are going to play a 3-4-2-1 as they did against Germany against Italy. I think you're going to see Walker, Maguire, Stones, and then you're going to have Luke Shaw and Saka as wing backs, and Declan Rice and Phillips, and then Mason Mount and Sterling behind Harry Kane, because I expect England to defend in a 5-4-1 without possession and attack in a 3-4-2-1 with possession on the counter. I don't expect England at all to play like Spain because they don't have the players. They
No.
don't have those skills. So I expect them to play, to defend deep and hurt Italy, play Italian against Italy, if you will. And that's something that I think Gareth Southgate has done so well throughout his entire tenure. He plays with his brains, not with his heart. England have often played too much with heart and not enough brains. Here it's the other way around, and you saw that against Denmark. England struggled against Denmark. They struggled. They looked static in midfield. They were unable to break Denmark down, and made sometimes life kind of easy for Denmark. But then you have a coach who's able to change the face of a game, and he's able to also get his players to increase the tempo and increase the way they move when it matters. I mean, towards the end of those 90 minutes, it was like watching an anaconda slowly but surely suffocate more and more its prey. Denmark could barely walk after those 90 minutes, especially those last 5 minutes. The intensity with which England attack, just wave after wave after wave. That's how Italian teams used to play. That's how Antonio Conte's team plays. Lull your opponents into a false sense of security, and when they least expect it, you just turn it on like that and you squeeze them. And that's what England did. And that's what ultimately, I mean, even if that penalty wasn't a penalty or whatever, the goal would have come sooner or later. England were far better than Denmark.
They definitely trust Gareth Southgate, which is what's important.
I feel so much better now. I feel so much better now than I did when I first came on. There's a bag of nerves when I come on, but now I'm listening to Nima. I feel fantastic.
No, I really do, because
I'm going to go and get my English shirt on now.
Look, it's also this. Harry Kane is an attacker who's a very intelligent attacker. He will, I think, positional shifts between him and Raheem Sterling is what I expect a lot. I expect him to shift out, drop out of the penalty area, and in the correct time, switch positions with Sterling, who is unstoppable for pace and speed. Maybe sometimes it goes a little bit too fast and he looks a little bit clumsy on the ball, and his finishing can look a bit sloppy. But that's, I think that's more to him being too fast for his own legs almost sometimes. And that's what I expect them to do. And what will happen then is basically Italy have to have the discipline and tactical awareness of whether, if that comes from which side it comes. If it's from the right, Chiesa, Di Lorenzo, and Barella have to be able to because Italy defend in kind of a zonal / man marking, depending, kind of shifts in between, depending on the situation. But when you have an opponent who moves like that, it's going to be zonal marking. That means that the three of them down the flank have to be able to know when who steps up when and takes over the marking assignment from the other, when you have someone that fast, when you have these positional shifts, because they won't man mark, and there's no way that Chiellini and Bonucci will be fooled into following Harry Kane out of position. I just said they're too clever to do that. So that it falls on the others to be able to help them out. And to basically when is Sterling my responsibility versus your responsibility kind of thing. I think that's going to be key.
Nima, you're Harry Kane, Sirio, Immobile, and I'm a massive fan of him. But people seem to have this split opinion in Italy, or whether he should be in the squad, whether he should be playing, whether Belotti should be starting instead of him. I mean, is he doing his job? Should he be number one striker for you?
Look, Ciro Immobile, I think in my opinion, I've always said I think he's unlucky because he was born in the wrong generation. He's a world class striker. If the year was 1995 to 2005, he's not your 2021 number 9. He's never been that. He's never been good as a sole number 9 in a 4-3-3 in what today is what you have to do with the if Ibrahimovic, Benzema, Haaland, Lewandowski, Harry Kane, Lukaku. That's not who he is. Whenever he's excelled, whether it was a Pescara in the Serie B and that Zdenek Zeman's crazy team that broke every record scoring goals with he had Lorenzo Insigne and he had Gianluca Caprari next to him. At Torino, when he won the Serie A top goal scorer for the first time, he had Alessio Cerci very close to him, feeding him balls. At Lazio, he's got Correa, he's got Luis Alberto or Milinkovic-Savic or Caicedo or someone else next to him that he can link up to. He's not a sole striker, and that's why he's so invisible in games when teams defend. And I think that's what I'm worried about. That's why I would start Belotti, because in terms of physicality and physical strength and tenacity, Belotti's a much better player than Ciro Immobile. And if Ciro Immobile is going to play against Harry Maguire, Maguire is just going to keep him in his back pocket for 90 minutes. He's not going to be able to link up. He's not going to be able to win the ball. He's not going to win a single one-on-one with Harry Maguire for physique and in the air. It's just not going to happen. So that's why I want Belotti to play against, because I think the opposition suits Belotti's style of play more. For me, it's a tactical issue. It's not a quality issue. There's no doubt that Italy have a problem in terms of number 9 and haven't produced a world-class number 9 since pretty much Luca Toni. But I mean, that's just a fact. Even though Ciro Immobile is European Golden Shoe winner, he's not in the modern sense in the 4-3-3, the number 9 strong guy like Lukaku, Kane, Lewandowski, etc. So for me, I rate the guy, but I mean, I just don't. I think it was against England and Harry Maguire and an England defending deep in 2 blocks 5-4-1. It's pointless to play with him. I mean, I understand why they do it, because what they want, of course, then is, Emerson Palmieri overlapping and overloading on the left, allowing Lorenzo Insigne to cut in to the right, cut in from the left to the right, and then with Immobile linking up and with the midfield, breaking the passing the ball between the lines and ripping England apart that way. I just think England are too good tactically positioned for that to happen.
If England set up the way you suggested with the 3 at the back, how do you think Mancini can set up his side to expose them?
By playing his 4-3-3, but playing with Belotti as in the number 9 role, I think would be incredibly important. Italy have one, again, this is Mancini. He has one way of playing. He can adapt to certain situations. But in order to do that, you will need a midfield. Italy's midfield have to be switched on and be able to do what they did against Belgium after 20 minutes, when they were able to, that movement between the lines and that ability to break, to frustrate and play the ball past England's press, so that England's central midfield is found in a no man's land, similarly to Belgium after 20-30 minutes. They were able to do that. That's how Italy have to do. And in order to do that, I mean, you saw against Belgium, Ciro Immobile was awful in that game. He struggled so much because he can't play with his back against the goal. That's not his strength. Belotti's strength is playing with the back against the goal and can do those things. He's a gritty player. He's not Italian. He's more Scottish, if we're going to be stereotypical in that sense. He's a
Belotti.
Andrew Belotti. So that's more. That's why I would play him more. And Chiesa is going to be very important, because him and Insigne. Because Chiesa, I mean, Insigne, it's a little bit like Arjen Robben in the sense that everyone knows what Arjen Robben was going to do throughout his entire career. Everyone knows what Lorenzo Insigne is going to do, but they still can't stop him. But you can't stop him. That's world class. Whilst Federico Chiesa, he can do that, but he can also go on the outside. He can go on the inside. He's very strong in the air. He's got a good shot with both feet. That's the difference. That they have to be switched on, and they need to be more cohesive and more tight in how they play in attack. And if they had Spinazzola, I'd be more confident, because Spinazzola marauding down that left flank, he almost takes care of that entire flank on his own, allowing Italy to almost relax a little bit defensively, because he covers that entire flank, both in attack and defense. Now you have Emerson Palmieri, who's obviously not as good, but he can do a similar job. He can hold his own, but he will need help. He will absolutely need help from players behind him.
So why do you think Chiesa didn't start the tournament?
I think it was quite clear that Mancini's plan, I think, was to grow and he basically play as many of his players as possible in the beginning, to have them rested for the latter stages. I think there's no doubt in my mind that the game plan was to work Chiesa into the tournament. And obviously work with Berardi. When you played Turkey and you played Wales and Switzerland, Berardi was able, because I mean, this, as we were just talking about, there's a difference between world-class players and very good players. Berardi's also a one-trick pony. You know what he's going to do, but the thing is, you can stop him. You can't stop Lorenzo Insigne. You can't stop Arjen Robben. You can't. But him, you can. And when it worked against those three sides, then there was, then you go with that, and then you save Chiesa for a latter stage. And then he came on against Austria, scored that goal, and was just phenomenal. And then he was phenomenal again against Spain. This kid is unbelievable. I rated his dad highly, but I've always maintained that I think he's better than his father, and his father was fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he was. Steve, you've heard Nima speak about so highly of Raheem Sterling. Why do you think the jury's quite split over here? Because I was speaking to someone the other day, and they said, "Yeah, Raheem Sterling scored goals, but other than that, he's not been that good." And I was stunned.
What do you want him to do?
Exactly. The thing is, he's a constant threat. Him just being on the pitch has them players sit back 10 yards away from him. Like, why do you think the jury split with Raheem Sterling, Steve?
Well, one thing, he's one of these players, and it's not a it's not a slight against him. Raheem Sterling is a confidence player. He has to be loved. If you're on his back, and if he loses the ball in the first minute, then he'll end up having a bad game. For Manchester City, you've heard Pep Guardiola speak many times, bring him off, especially recently over the first 4 months. Sometimes he's that bit inconsistent. But what people don't see, when he's playing well, they fail to forget about the times that he was inconsistent and just look at what he's doing there and then. It's a very lazy way of thinking sometimes when people think of a footballer. At the moment, he's on fire. You can't, to be honest with you, Raheem Sterling's never been my favourite type of player, and because he's just so inconsistent when he's playing for Manchester City. I mean, look, all right, okay, Phil Foden's the man that's getting in instead of him at the moment. Fair enough, but he's not playing in the Manchester City side because he's just not consistent enough. And there's rumours about him going in the summer, but whether that'll happen, I don't know. But to answer your question, he's just because he's inconsistent. And some players are like that. Some players, they feel that you've got to play every game, and because he's in the limelight, they feel that Raheem Sterling's got to be on it every single minute. The guy's lightning. The guy just is going to cause problems. And he's the guy. We was just talking about Spain just a minute ago, and we were saying, I feel that we've got to play like Spain to beat Italy. That's how I feel. I feel if we don't play like Spain, personally, I think we'll lose the match. Right. And Raheem Sterling is one of them players on foot, and now he's not got the hope on England's shoulders, but he's one of them players who can do that. He can knock it about, he can hold it off, he can run at players, just like Spain were doing at Italy. And they hurt Italy. And I think
that's the most important thing. It's with Raheem Sterling, he runs at players. He doesn't back off. As soon as he gets the ball, it's one way. He's looking towards running at that goal.
He's keeping Jack Grealish out the side. He's keeping Jack Grealish out the side. I mean, you can't give him a bigger compliment than that. I mean, for me, Jack Grealish is world class, but he's keeping him out the side. So I just think it's his inconsistency, and I don't know. To be honest with you, I can't answer why. I can't see how people can't see his quality. And for me, he's been England's man of the tournament at the moment.
Nima, what's the feeling amongst the Italian fans? Are they feeling like they could get something out of this game? They think they could win it?
Yeah, I mean, the Italians are pretty confident. I've seen some not very scientific polls, but these kind of online straw polls where people go on sites and click on the big newspaper sites in Italy, and somewhere around 60-70% vote that they think Italy is going to win. So they're fairly confident. They do see a weakness in this England side. There are weaknesses in both of these teams, but I think they're very evenly balanced teams, even though there are weaknesses in them. It's a little bit work in progress. I don't think either of these sides are really fully developed and matured yet, but they are getting there, and they're very well balanced teams. I think again it's Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling, and if you can get Phil Foden and Jadon Sancho to kind of gel into this as well, I think England are going to be. They already are a world-class team, but they'll be absolute top world-class there as well. I think if you can find a way to get all of these players to play together in one lineup and work, and it works, it'll make England absolutely unstoppable.
So,
Who do you
so
see? Sorry. Now, who? I just like one of the worries, Nima, in England, all the talk in the pubs and the bars, and my friends and on the phone is that midfield there. You know, English fans are very worried about that midfield. We feel that we can't match Italy in that midfield. We've got Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. You know, fair enough. They've had great tournaments, but they're not top draw, if you like. You've got Locatelli and Barella and Verratti's playing at the moment, isn't he? You know, with Barella. I mean, how do you see that battling out? Are our worries just?
No, I mean, of course, because it is. I mean, in my opinion, right now, I don't think you have an international level. No other country has the depth in terms of quality in the central midfield that Italy have. And you know, you remember, Stefano Sensi is injured. He's not even in the squad. You have Nicolo Zaniolo, who plays in a number 10 role. He's also injured. He's not even in the squad. I mean, Castrovilli's not seen a minute yet. I mean, there is an absolute embarrassment of riches centrally in midfield for Italy, no doubt about that. But the thing is with Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice is that they don't need to match Italy for skill and that midfield for skill and technique. That's not their job. Their job is to absorb pressure and to absorb pressure and to stop them from playing between the lines and making them pretty much bystanders. Their job is to protect that central defense, and together with that central defense, prevent Italy's wingers cutting in and causing problems. That they're good at, and that they will be able to do because England will play deeper and defend deep for sure. They will press all over the pitch, starting with Harry Kane up front. Yeah. But they will defend deep, and they will try to disrupt Italy playing their game and finding the spaces between the lines and moving the ball between the lines. That'll be key.
And I think that's important. We have to stop Jorginho playing. We have to be on every single touch because he's like the puppet master. He goes.
He really is.
It goes kind of unnoticed, and I think the same thing with Chelsea, because you hear a lot of criticism with how he plays. They call him slow and this and sideways, but he brings the balance to the team, which is so important. And I think every manager that's trained him and works with him, whether they want him in the team in the first place, he ends up in the team.
Yeah, it's just he is the point of reference for in every team he's been. He's the first name on that sheet because as I said, he's the point of reference in terms of balance as well. It's similar to when, without any comparisons other than, between them, Esteban Cambiasso at Inter was that player. He was the point of reference with which every single player looked at where he is and knew where they're supposed to be position-wise. That's what you get with Jorginho. He's the one with which the rest of them look at, okay, where am I supposed to go? Just by looking at where he is. And he's absolutely phenomenal. He really is the puppet master. He really is. And also his defense, he's improved so much defensively at Chelsea under Tuchel. Just this last year, I think he's been, he's been phenomenal there. And together with Kante, that midfield that Chelsea have got is just insane.
It is. Steve, we spoke earlier about Harry Kane, and for the first 2 games, he was almost non-existent. What do you think he's changed in his game since then?
It's not him that's changed his game. It's the people around him that's changed his game. They're starting to do different things. In the first 2 games, Luke Shaw wasn't getting down the flanks. Carl Walker wasn't getting down the other flanks. And Harry Kane was, you didn't even know he was on the pitch. But it's not so much Harry Kane. Harry Kane, every top striker, whether you're a world-class striker, whether you're Lewandowski, whether you're Haaland, they still need a service. Harry Kane wasn't getting the service in those first few games. Then what we started to click. Grealish, whenever Grealish came on, Kane come alive. And then all of a sudden, after the Scotland game, Luke Shaw started to get forward. And again, now Harry Kane started scoring his goals. And then a centre forward needs service. We were speaking to Nathan, and you know, he said that, you know, unless I've got service, I can't score goals, and that's what he needed. But he hasn't changed. He hasn't changed nothing. His work rate has been still the same as what it is. He just had he wasn't having no balls in the channels. But as I said, once Grealish came on, Kane started getting goals. Once Shaw got forward, Kane started getting his goals. This was a bit later in the tournament, so really we've swerved one really, because we could have come unstuck against Scotland, and we could have come unstuck against Croatia. That's why I think we need Jack Grealish from the start against Italy, because Mason Mount I just feels a bit too samey.
Yeah. So Nima, you've seen the England team for the last couple of games. You've seen Gareth Southgate's brought in Saka. Does Saka worry you less than a Sancho? Does a Mount worry you less than a Grealish? Do you think that'll play into your benefit?
No, I mean, for me, it's about, you know, this is more about tactics than I think it's more about tactical balance and what you want to get out of that team, and what you want, what you're looking for in terms of the balance defensively and attack. So for me, it's not you know, a lot of time football supporters look at this and like, oh, he's better than him, how come he's not playing? Well, it's not really about that. It's about what that player gives you in that position, and in that situation. And I think Saka causes you headaches. His marauding runs causes you problems. You know, he's still a very young guy and he can absolutely improve, but he will give you all sorts of headaches because he can beat you for pace. Maybe not technically the most gifted player, and maybe not tactically the wisest yet, but he is disciplined. And he absolutely, every job that Southgate has asked him to do, he's done so. And he causes you problems because, again, him and Sterling on the wings, they will hurt you for pace. I mean, to me, against Denmark, it was more about his ability to shift his weight and to increase his speed from fast to very fast, why Sterling was able to dribble past so many Danish players. That's what it was. I do think that Raheem Sterling's technique is phenomenal, but I think that his pace might sometimes, because he is so lightning fast, and his ability to switch on is so, like, it's so quick that it can almost go a little bit too quick for him, and that's why I think he misses so many chances in the Premier League. And I think that's what Guardiola's trying to teach him, to maybe you know, slow down a little bit for his own sake, so that he finds himself in positions that he can, because he gets into those positions and he squanders a little bit too much because he gets into those positions. But what people forget is that, well, he got into those positions to begin with because of his brilliant speed and technique. But I mean, I think we're talking tweaking here, really. But I mean, if you've got, for me, it's like you've got Sancho and Foden off the bench. That's a good place to be.
I know.
That's a very good place to be.
I know.
Because if you, in the 70th, 80th minute, if you're chasing a game with a goal, by one goal, you know, you throw Grealish and those two on. That's a very good place to be. That's a very good place to be. That's a very good place to be, and that's how you win tournaments, because you've got that extra firepower off the bench.
Yeah. So that won't worry you. It won't worry you playing Saka. You know, you said you've got an incredible and experienced defence there with, you know, Chinini and Bonucci and Emerson. Saka's 19 years old. If you're Gareth Southgate, are you sitting there tonight and are you thinking, yeah, you've done well, but this might be just a little bit too much for you?
I don't think it's too much for him. I think it depends on how he wants to form. I mean, if he wants to play a 3-4-2-1, which I think he will, I don't think he has to play Saka. I mean, I don't, because on that wing back position, because Saka's just, he gives you that, you know, he never stops running. You know, he can, I mean, we've seen in this tournament where he makes these 70-yard runs, maximum speed, and then he runs equally as fast back again, and he does this 90 minutes, and it's like, what, you know, so if you can do that, especially, you know, then you know, more power to you, then that's not an issue. And he does what he's asked to do. He doesn't go off on these, you know, on these runs where he breaks tactics or breaks ranks. He does he knows exactly what he's supposed to do, and he sticks to it. And that to me makes him it's an important player to have in that squad. But I mean, again, I think Saka will run himself to the ground as he's done this tournament, and then you've got someone else to come on, and then England can shift to a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. England have so many tactical options that they can choose from, and with Kyle Walker being able to play in a back three to the right of that back three, and also going back to it and then shifting to a fullback, that again gives England so many options and tactical flexibility that Mancini just doesn't have. Not just in terms of the squad he's got at his disposal, but also as a coach. He's not that flexible. He has plan A, and that's what he sticks with.
Yeah. So, how do you see the game panning out then, Nima?
I see Italy scoring the first goal pretty early.
I don't think I can hack that.
Mid first half. Okay. I see England equalising towards the end of the second half, and I see Harry Kane scoring the winner in extra time.
Oh, it's like a movie script. Steve, how do you see the game panning out?
This is heart and brain time. Look, right before the tournament kicked off, as you know, Kieran, Italy. I said Italy would win it. Yeah. I
and now they're up against England. You're like, do you know what?
So I never expected England would get to the final. I was going to have to make this decision on what I thought. I was just hoping Italy was going to get to the final, and I was just going to say Italy are going to win. But as you said, I can't see. I don't think Nima's named a few things there, but at the beginning of the tournament, I couldn't see a weakness. I didn't know too much about Spinazzola. I mean, it's
a big loss.
But I'd see, people know.
I feel so bad for the guy. Really feel bad for him. Sorry to interrupt you, but like Spinazzola, he's, this is one of my favorite players, and he's had so many problems with injuries. And then he found, then a dentist actually found that maybe there was something wrong with his teeth. And when they fixed that, he was phenomenal last season, and he wasn't as injured again. And then he had this absolutely horrible Achilles tendon injury, which will keep him sidelined for 6-7 months. Yeah. So I hope he's able to come back from that. But he is a favorite player of mine. I absolutely love the guy.
Yeah. Well, as you said quickly, I just said I said Italy were going to win. My brain said Italy was going to win. And look, the way I'm going to say this is, look, I can't change my mind. I can't change my mind. My brain says Italy will win. My heart is saying England. So I think Italy will win it. I think they'll nick it. I think they'll win by a 1-0. But I pray obviously, being an England fan, that it don't happen. But I'm going to say 1-0 Italy.
Yeah, I think England are favourites, and I think it's definitely more 50-50. Italy have been phenomenal in this tournament. I see it. I see a different Italy to what you do, Nima, because you're a fan. You watch them all the time, but I've been so impressed with Italy. I thought they were brilliant against Belgium. Yes, there were times where Belgium came into the game and started really well, but Italy matched them for me. And they went toe-to-toe with pace. Yes, against Spain, it was completely different. But that's the first game I've seen Spain really turn up. And they were brilliant. They completely surprised me in that game as well, and which I think they surprised Italy as well. So,
for sure.
I'm the host, so I'm not here to make predictions on this one. I'm using my get out of jail free card. But Nima, I cannot have you on here without you talking about Inter Milan as well quickly.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, of course. So like Barella, he's been excellent in the tournament. There's been links with it with Liverpool, but is it true that he's signing a new deal, or a deal is in the pipeline?
He's not going anywhere. It's just that simple. They're building the project around him. Him and Bastoni are at the heart of that project, and he's not going anywhere. And he already has a contract for another 3-4 years, and they're going to extend it. And there's, he's probably going to be made the captain. Suning have a very, open policy about this. If you want our players, they're all for sale, but you have to pay us what we want, and not a penny less. As Manchester United found out about Ivan Perisic. When
Yeah.
if you don't pay us our 45, 50 million, you're not getting him. And then they didn't get him, and then instead they sent him on loan to Bayern Munich. Like that's how they work. They don't mess around. They have their prices, and for £100 million, sure, then he can go to Liverpool. But Liverpool don't have £100 million to spend. I don't think anyone has £100 million in cash to spend. I mean, you saw with the Hakimi deal, Inter did not back down. 65 million cash, 3 million in easily attained add-ons, and another 3 million in more difficult attained add-ons, but 71 million euros. That, you know, they don't mess around. Inter under Suning do not bow. They won't be held over a barrel. They don't care. They do not sell unless they're happy. So Barella, I'm very confident is not going anywhere. But he is a phenomenal player.
He is. There was issues previously with the money inside. So is that been sorted out? Is there?
Well, look, the issue is all clubs have struggled with the financial ramifications of the COVID-19 pandemic and closed stadiums and sponsorships, you know, disappearing. For Inter, it's been a little bit different because most of their, you know, Suning are a giant retail company that most of their core business is selling TVs and stuff like that. They're like, I don't know, to say something, I don't know what stores you got in England that or the UK that people can relate to, but it's like, I don't know, Iceland. Currys, something like that. Currys. They're just this massive retail store that sells TVs, and you know they're huge in Asia. They're Fortune 500 company. That's where they make all their money. Well, if you're in retail, and then they also have a real estate. Well, retail and real estate are the businesses that have been hit hardest by the pandemic. So the cash flow is the problem. You know, the coffers empty quickly when people don't spend, and you're in sales. And they invested in Evergrande, which is one of the biggest real estate companies in the world, and that turned out to be a bloodbath after the pandemic. So for them, and also all of the sponsorships they got were from China and Asia, and they weren't able to pay up, which means, well, it's quite simple. You've got money leaving the club, you got nothing coming in. So they had to cover all of that, and they've spent over 700 million euros in total these years of their own cash. So the issue, and also what happened was that the Chinese government said that, you know, basically put a stop to, because of the pandemic. Money going out in non-essential businesses, and football is a non-essential business. It's essentially luxury. It's not like, you know, Geely owning Volvo, who makes cars, or you know, industry. That's essential. That has to keep on going. But football isn't, and so they had to cancel all their, you know, because they had a company called Suning Sports, which, I mean, their idea was to dominate the world of sports in the same way that they were doing in retail and real estate, but they had to completely disband that because, you know, again, it was a giant hole. So what's happened now is that they've taken a 300 million euro loan from Oaktree, a venture capital company, just to make things meet, make ends meet, using their ownership of the club estate as collateral. Now that loan has to be repaid over 3 years with a double-digit interest. So that's why they basically said, we need to cut wages by 15-20%. We need to end this transfer window on an 80 to 100 million euro plus. So players going out, players coming in has to end plus 100 million euros, and wages have to be cut by 15%. Now, that's where you have a fantastic director named Beppe Marotta and Piero Ausilio, who are basically delivering on that. They, you know, after Hakimi, 68 million, then João Mario, Dalbert, that's another 14-15 million. Then, you know, that brings it up to almost 80. And then you've got Gravilon. All these youth team players are just shipping off one by one. So they will reach that 100 million euros without sacrificing another big player. But then you're faced with, well, who do you replace Hakimi with? And that's where you struggle. Okay, well, you don't have any money to spend. So what do you do?
Bellerin, maybe?
You don't want Bellerin.
God, no. I really, that gives me depression. Just thinking, like,
Wow.
It just gives me depression just thinking about that.
We've had 5 years of depression, haven't we?
Oh, there was hope. There was hope that you was going to take him off our hands.
No,
I love him as a guy.
Yeah,
as a footballer, it's kind of. I've had my time now.
Yeah, Hector Bellerin is this is the thing that why I'm against this the most, is the fact that Hector Bellerin he's never played in a back three. It's always been in a back four. His weakness is his positioning and read of the game. And in the Serie A, you're going to put this guy in to cover an entire flank in the most tactical league in the world. It's going to be a bloodbath. And I don't want that. It's just insane. I'd rather have Chelsea's Zappacosta on loan, who's not as good technically as Bellerin, but he knows the league, and he's tactically more intelligent, and he knows what it means to play down that flank in the Serie A. So for me, Bellerin is just suicide. It's absolute. I mean, my ideal replacement would be Manuel Lazzari from Lazio, but that Simone Inzaghi had. But when he was there, but he's not. That's not going to happen because now, based on what Sarri, the new coach, has said, he wants to keep him and he wants to stay. So that's not going to happen. So I just hope it's either Alessandro Florenzi from Roma or Davide Zappacosta. And if they bring in Bellerin, it better be just on a loan with an option to buy, because he is going to fail, and then I do not want to be stuck with him. So I want to send him back to you.
It decreases his value if that's the case. We don't want that obligation.
All
he can do is get down the flanks. He can't even do that now. His legs are
his end product isn't the best either. So it'd have to completely change his game.
But also Arsenal, from what I understand, speaking to a colleague, Chris Wheatley, who covers Arsenal for Football London, he says, I mean, Arsenal want cash. The minimum they will accept is an obligation. And things that aren't able to do, it's just the math doesn't add up. So I don't see how that, unless Arsenal dramatically change towards the end of the window and he comes then. But then he won't have time to prepare properly as well, which just makes the signing completely bloody useless. So it's just, I just hope they sort that out. I mean, I'd rather have Zappacosta and have him and Darmian alternate, and then you've got Perisic and Di Marco. And Di Marco is a player I really rate. Di Marco could be Inter's, not as good as Hakimi, but he could be Inter's Hakimi on the left. He's a really good player. He's a player I rate. He came up through the youth ranks at Inter, loaned out to Parma where he was good, and then he went to Hellas Verona for the past 2 seasons where he's been absolutely phenomenal, even being called up to the national team. And he loves Inter. This is an Inter guy. He came up through the youth ranks. I really want to keep him. I really want to keep this guy.
All right. And
Martinez and Lukaku priceless, Nima.
I was just about to ask that. I was about to say, is Lukaku staying? That's how I was going to go.
Well,
Martinez,
Lukaku and Lautaro are priceless because they've got contracts on them for a long time, and Lautaro wants to stay. Simone Inzaghi, one of the things, I mean, he doesn't, in interviews, and outside of the dressing room, he comes off as a pretty boring person. I'm pretty happy with that, because after 4 years of two lunatics, Spalletti and Conte, it's kind of nice to have someone who's normal.
Doesn't lunatics won you the league with them for that, though?
Do you know what I mean? I feel like after 2 years of Spalletti talking in tongues, essentially, and Conte foaming at the mouth over throwing hissy fits, and I love them both. Don't get me wrong. I find it rather refreshing to have someone who can speak in complete sentences, who reacts like a normal human being, who's not bipolar, who's not a mouth breather, inhales and exhales like a normal Homo sapien, stuff like that. That's where the bar is in terms of behavior. I find that rather refreshing. He's not a tactical genius like Antonio Conte, because Antonio Conte is second to none. I mean, the thing, the football Inter have played under him is the most beautiful football Inter have played in my lifetime, and I stand by that. It's just innovative, fantastic football, but the guy is high maintenance.
He gets what he wants, but he knows what he wants, and it works.
It works, absolutely, but you end up being exhausted. Like, he sucks the energy out of the room just by being in it. But he is brilliant. There's no doubt about that. Simone is, I mean, I've said this for 3.5 years. He is the next Italian super coach. He's not as tactically innovative and genius like Conte, but no one is. Not everyone has to be like Pep or him. You don't. He's a very good coach. He's very skilled, and I think he's a winner. what he's done at Lazio, his ability to develop players, young players, his ability to get the best out of already experienced players. It's phenomenal. He gets players to overachieve, and that's what you want. And also his ability to build a dressing room is very underrated. He comes across as rather boring, but all I know is what I've heard from Lukaku before the Euros. One phone call from Simone, and Lukaku was all smiles and giddery after his bromance, after his BFF Antonio Conte had left. Those two love each other. And Lukaku was all jittery. Oh no, I'm really looking forward to this. I don't know what that phone call was, so that's his ability, because he used to be a good footballer, not as good as his brother Filippo.
No, but he was good.
He was good, so he knows what it's about, and that's what I want. The coach at Inter needs to be able to unify that dressing room and defend that squad against everything and everyone. Antonio Conte did that in his second season, but in his first season, it was pretty much him for himself, as he always does everywhere. But he developed, and that's why I thought it was such a shame that he left, because it was really looking interesting. But Simone, I really rate him, and he's always been my guy after Conte. So I'm really happy that we got him. And he will do a job. He will do a job. He will get the best out of it. I mean, what he did with Luis Alberto, what he did with, what's his name? Lucas Leiva, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, nobody knew who that was. Ciro Immobile, all these players, young and old, he gets the best out of them. And I want to see, and I'm really interested to see what he can do at Inter. I'm really interested.
And are there any players that Inter are looking to bring in? Give us some exclusive, Nima.
No, I think it's going to be a very frugal transfer window because of the directives that they've been given. I don't expect Inter to. I do expect them to, if there is opportunities, as the Italians say, mercato di opportunità. If there is that, they will pounce on that. I think someone like they will look to bring in. They have to bring in someone for that right wing back position. Can they cash in on Ivan Perisic? Well, then they need to replace him. And who do they bring in there? And then you look at that midfield and you're like, okay, well, you're pretty much stacked for midfield. Vecino, Gagliardini, these are players that Inzaghi likes. And whenever Christian Eriksen comes back, if he comes back, Çalhanoğlu was brought in very quickly, and he'll and Simone Inzaghi basically said that he's going to try to make him his Luis Alberto, pretty much. So I think we're going to look at the goalkeeping position is something, if they get rid of Radu, they will bring someone in. But for Inter right now, it's about offloading all these fringe players: Nainggolan, João Mario, Dalbert. If Radu leaves, they'll bring someone in. Get rid of then you have this all this host of youth players, this brilliantly very talented young players: Luciana Gomez, Inio van Heusden, who's already played for the Belgian national side. These are players they're going to extend and loan out, and then I think in about 2 weeks' time we'll see where Inter are. Then they'll start focusing on bringing players in. But the most important focus is a backup striker to Lukaku and a wing back to replace Hakimi for sure.
All right.
Kieran Trippier's for sale. He's gone up for sale.
It's all about 40 million though, isn't they?
Yeah,
so
I was going to say this. Yeah, I mean, unless they send him on a loan, then
with an option to buy it.
With an option to buy
it's not happening. It's not happening. All right, Nima, thank you very much for coming on.
Pleasure.
Brilliant guest. It's been very enjoyable. I'd love to get you on. We'll even do like an Inter Milan special or Italian special and get you on, even with Carlo or something like that. It'd be looking forward to it.
I'd love that. Pleasure, absolute pleasure to be with you guys and enjoy the game on Sunday. And
I won't. I'm not going to enjoy it. Like I said, the final whistle, England are lifting the cup is when I'm going to enjoy it. Other than that, it's just not going to be fun for me. Although you have alleviated some anxiety just by telling me how good England are. So this was therapy for me. So thank you very much for that.
Well, good, because now I feel kind of depressed myself. So I don't know what to do to make myself feel good. But...
Winning. All right. Thanks, thank you very much for joining us, people. And obviously, go and follow Nima. Can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, I mean, my personal handle is, you see that at Nima Tavallaey on Twitter, and then for Inter Milan news, SempreInter.com. and the Italian Football Podcast at ItaFootPod on Twitter, and we're on Patreon, patreon.com/TIFP, and we do a show, a minimum 2 shows a week. We do a review show usually on Monday, or like a current events show on Mondays, and then on the Thursday episode is an interview show with someone connected to in the world of Italian football. We've had Roy Hodgson on, Sven-Goran Eriksson on. We've had these kind. We had Alessandro Diamanti, Nocerino. We had Joe Calzaghe on, the former boxer.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So so that's the kind of stuff
Upstaged 101. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Brilliant. Thank you for coming on, Nia. Thank you
Absolute
very much.
pleasure. Take care, guys.
Ciao. Take care.
Bye,
Ciao,
mate.
ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.